My name is Giles Henschel, and along with my wife Annie, I'm one of the founder directors of Olives Vital. We were launched around about 30 years ago, on the 28th of October 1993 to be precise. And this was kind of something that came out of me and Annie spending 12 months really taking a gap year. We sold everything we owned. We bought two motorbikes, the same two motorbikes that you can see sort of pictured behind me. And the whole idea was we just want to go and spend 12 months travelling and go and see what we discovered. And we decided to travel right the way around the Mediterranean. So we went down to Spain and then the Spanish coastline, through France, all the way down Italy into Sicily, over into Greece, through Greece into Turkey, Turkey into Syria, Syria into Jordan, and then down in through the West Bank into Israel, and then back out of there, down into the Sinai Peninsula, all the way around that, and then over into Egypt, Cairo, then right the way down the Nile as far as Sudan, then back out through the Western Desert, into Libya. And that was when I guess the trouble started. We got arrested and deported twice from Libya. They didn't seem to want us to go through there. And we ended up bumping our way back to the UK, and having spent 12 months travelling, and we ended up living in a bedsit in Southampton, trying to start another business. And we just missed the food. And everywhere we went, it didn't matter what the town, what the village, what the country, didn't matter what the time of year was. The one thing you always got, breakfast, dinner, lunch and tea, was an olive of some description. And we kind of used food as like a social lubricant. Because you can't just walk into a bar and say, hello, can I be your friend? Because people just look at you a bit oddly. And so when the food used to come to the table, we just sort of ask, hey, what's this? What are we eating here? Why does this olive look like this? And why does this one look like that? And they said, are you really interested? We said, well, yeah, we are, because this kind of ended up being the sort of the essence of the region that we were traveling through. We were traveling right the way through olive country, and that's what we discovered. So we just collected all the recipes, and then having arrived back, flat broke, living in this bedsit in Southampton, got really depressed and decided to try and make some of the olives for ourselves. And that was the genesis of the business. That's where it actually all started from. Wow, what makes Olives Vital so unique? That's a really, really good question. I think there's lots of little things that we do. We were the first people to start putting olives into extra virgin olive oil and charging £10 a jar for them, whereas all of the other olives sort of sitting on a supermarket shelf or in a deli were 99p. And ours were in extra virgin olive oil. They were fully fermented, fully ripened, fully matured. We used to hand grade and hand sort every single one of them, and we still do, even to this day. So that's sort of one thing that kind of makes us unique, because nobody else was doing it. And what we were doing was really exactly what we'd seen the Mediterraneans doing in their own homes. You didn't buy olives like that because everybody had olives of their own that they would then take and do their own family recipes to, or the ones that came off the trees that people had actually harvested, the farmers had harvested. They would be doing something very similar for themselves, but they weren't the ones that were on sale because everybody knows how to prepare. It's a bit like, I guess, trying to start a business selling roast potatoes. Everybody makes the best roast potatoes. Your mum makes the best roast potatoes. My mum makes the best roast potatoes. But everybody has their own recipe for olives. And it's something very sort of similar to that. So that's just one of the things that I think makes us unique. I think some of the other things that make us unique is really the culture that we've built up over the years. I don't come from a corporate background, never have been. I've never been employed by anybody. I spent 10 years in the army, that's not corporate. And so when we set this up, we didn't really know anything about business. We didn't really know how we were supposed to behave in an office. And we've always tried to make it immensely personable and immensely inclusive, not exclusive. Anybody can come through our door. We like anybody who actually just has a great love of food. That's us. And so we've always had this sort of feeling of companionship, and the real essence of companionship is someone who you break bread with. That's what companion really means. It's com meaning with and pan meaning bread. So someone who you actually take time to break bread with and share food with is a great companion. And we've always tried to encapsulate that, I guess, through everything that we do. That is a unique thing that I think that people gravitate towards us. They really just like the feeling, and it's what we've coined as being Olivey. You know, that thing that just when it just feels right. And there's plenty of people out there who do olives and dressings and sauces and nuts and snacks and all of the other things that we do, but nobody can ever beat Olives Vital at being Olives Vital. That's the biggest unique factor that we've got. There is only one Olives Vital. That's kind of us. The specific challenges that we face in importing our product is the same challenges that anybody else who relies on complex supply chains. We've been doing it for many years. We've been doing it for probably 25 of the 30 years that we've been in existence. We've been dealing directly with those farmers and bringing them directly in. So we've got tried and tested methods. Brexit's a complication. COVID's a complication, Ukraine's a complication. They all present different sort of forms of challenges, but they're just sort of things you just have to work your way through. And there's nothing more really to be said about that. Yes, it's a challenge, but then, hey, life's a challenge on a daily basis. Keeping the business going through COVID. It's all just varieties of the same sort of thing, really. And we've got such a good team here who are so experienced at what they do. Yeah, it might take a little bit longer, they might cost a little bit more, and they might not necessarily arrive exactly when you want them to, but we just muddle our way through that. It's a genuinely very, very difficult question to answer. We know of around about 3,000 different varieties of olives grown around the world today. Of those, 800 or so have been completely catalogued and completely written up. And of those, around about 240 are the main ones that are used. 120 of them get used to make table olives, roughly, and about 120 of them get used to make extra virgin olive oil. And just like wine, just like grapes, just like apples, just like anything else that's a naturally grown product or vegetable or fruit, yeah, the terroir, the climate, the soil type, the different varieties, they all affect it. And if you talk to a Greek olive farmer, he will know Greek olives to the nth degree. He will know all of his competitors, he'll know all of the different names, he'll know all of the different regions, and he'll be able to defend his own. Of course he will. If you talk to an Italian olive farmer, they'll do exactly the same thing about Italy. Talk to a Sicilian, the same about Sicily. Morocco, Lebanon, Turkey, wherever. However, if you talk to us, we know all of them. We've studied every single one of them. We've studied South Africa, Australia, Argentina, Brazil, all the places that you don't, New Zealand, all the sort of places that you don't really expect maybe to find olives. We know all of those different countries. We've travelled to most of them and we've actually researched them so that we know that what we do, if you want a specific recipe, we know the right olive, we know the right technique from the right country, from the right region, from the right farmer or the right producer in order to replicate or to produce something almost exactly to your specification. There's lots of times when people come up to a sort of trade shows or exhibitions and sort of say, I had this olive in a bar somewhere in Montpellier. What was that? Oh, I haven't a damn clue. You know, I really haven't a clue. Well, describe it to me. Well, I can't. It was sort of olivey. Well, yeah, okay, fine. Was it dark? Was it black? Was it wrinkled? Was it smooth? Oh, it was a little wrinkled olive, and it sort of had herbs on it. Oh, that was probably a Tanche olive from Nyon. Oh, was it? Do you have those? Well, no, I don't. Not exactly those, but I've got something similar. So yeah, I guess we've chosen quite a difficult path, and I know we're talking mainly here about olives. But then we also, we do olive oil, we do nuts, we do snacks, we do sauces, we do dressings, and we apply the same sort of degree of consideration, I would say, to every single product that we make. We really want to know the absolute ins and outs of where it comes from, what's the anthropology of the recipe, or whether it's something that we've created. And we choose exactly the right ingredients to deliver what we need, as opposed to just, well, we'll just put those ingredients together. Because you get a chef and you give him 5 ingredients, another chef the same 5 ingredients and the same recipe, they'll both turn out with something entirely different. Our trick there is to be as consistent as we can by selecting the correct ingredients. Yes, in short answer to that, yeah, you sort of spoke about that ethos of live more and eat very happily. And that comes from, it's a general philosophy, and it was born on the trip that we did, really. And it's actually about making time to get as much into life as possible. We have this work ethic over here, which is we live to work. Whereas in fact, you know, they work, Mediterranean people, they tend to work in order to live. And people say the Mediterranean diet is one of the healthiest diets on the planet. That's only 1/3 of it, really. The diet, the climate, and also their attitude and approach to life. And if we combined all of those things, then yeah, I really think that we would have a massive benefit from a health point of view about choosing what you put inside your body and choosing the mood that you actually have and choosing when you eat and how you eat. I still think it's really important to try and get a family around about a table at least once a day, if you possibly can. And I know that's very difficult for some people, particularly at the moment, but it is really important that we sort of break bread and share food with each other, and making time to eat and making time for that companionship, making time for those relationships over food. And that's where that philosophy of live more and eat very happily came from. And that happiness in eating is supposed to be guilt-free, so that you should be able to buy ingredients and buy food, if you possibly can, from companies and organisations that you know do as much as they can to tread as lightly as they can on the planet. And I would consider ourselves to be one of those. And so yeah, I genuinely feel that there's a really important thing there. When you look at the plantations and the olive groves over either in Spain or in Greece or anywhere where you see them, they actually constitute the largest man-made forest anywhere on the planet. Every single olive tree that you see in those serried rows and ranks has been planted by someone at some point. And every single one of those trees is visited by someone at some point during each year to carry out the harvest, to carry out the pruning. And there's very little fossil fuels that are used in the production of olives. Unlike, it's completely different to say something like sunflower oil or rapeseed oil or coconut oil or soy oil. There's almost no fossil fuels used in the cultivation of olive trees. They do their thing, they get pruned by hand, they get very generally, or nearly always, harvested by hand. Yes, there are trucks that carry the olives to and fro from the mill, but they are a very sustainable and green and environmentally friendly plant. And there's so much legacy and so much history to them. They wouldn't have been around for the last 6,000 years if they weren't. And so we, I believe, have a really sound basis on sort of saying that we are as sustainable a business as we can. Climate change is really important, and we're noticing now that the climate in some of those countries that we derive our product from Greece, Spain, those climates are changing. And we've just had a heat wave over in Spain of 40 degrees in May, just when the blossom was actually arriving on the tree. So the harvest this year is likely to be really bad because we've had this heat wave. It's really unusual, but that is a sign of climate change. And it's one of the things that we need to be very conscious about what we can do in order to prevent any further degradation of the climate. Yeah, we're choosy about who we actually decide to work with, and we prefer working with the independents, the ones on the high street. They're the ones that we originally first started with, and they're the ones who we've supported over the years and wanted to really support. So yeah, we far prefer working with them than anybody else. And of course we go through distributors and wholesalers, so we don't always know where our product actually ends up. But it's definitely the independents that we enjoy. We enjoy those relationships.